Hello and welcome to my channel, Share It with Merit. I am Merit. Today's video, we're going to delve a little bit more into authentic living. The last video I did, I talked about the continuum of happiness, I call it, and how on one end is surviving, and then there's some other steps in there, and then at the other end of the continuum is thriving. And I want to delve more into what it means to thrive, because I want everyone to thrive. That really is what drives me, and what's important to me is using my gifts and talents to share with others so that they can create a life that allows them to share their gifts, talents, and skills in an authentic way. And I think that authenticity is really the key to thriving. And it's hard. We are born perfectly fine, and I've talked about that in other videos, so I won't go too much into the process of how we got to be right here. I'm going to take it from here. Okay, so here we are. Here you are. Here I am, and we've all made it to this spot right now. Okay. This place in time. And we are always at the sum total of our experiences, right? And our that includes our thought processes, things that have happened to us, things we've created. All of our experiences have led us up to this point. So here we are. Okay. And the level of authenticity that you can have, I also talk a little bit about in that last video. It's called the Continuum of Happiness, if you want to go sort of review that. But authenticity is not a given. We'll just start there. But it is something that can be cultivated, developed, and it is really the key to thriving, because when you can show up in this world in a way that feels consistent with who you are, what matters to you, then there's a certain self-containment and contentment that comes with that, right? And it's really all you're responsible for. You are responsible for this being, this ball of energy that you just showed up in one day, right? This is your responsibility. And when you take that responsibility seriously and you hone in on what this energy stands for and can do and can create, and you cultivate that, you really are, you're making the world a better place. And the joy that comes with that is what I would consider thriving. Okay, but how, Merit? How do we do this, right? And so there's a lot of different ways, but today I thought I would share with you a worksheet that I developed called me.doc. And I will share my screen here because I learned how to do this in my last video and it worked. So I was very proud of myself because I'm not always so great at the technical stuff. But okay, so this is something I call me.doc. And, why wouldn't you take the time, right? Why would you not take the time to understand who you are, who you want to be, right? And that's the important part here too, is that you get to decide that. You get to cultivate you. If there's things about yourself that you're not digging so much, you can change that. You can let that go. You can take a look at that and make a decision that that's not how you're going to be anymore. And yes, it takes some time, but it's like a habit. You catch yourself, you stop doing it. You catch yourself, and it slowly will go away, right? And the same is true if there's something that you want to do more of that maybe isn't coming naturally to you, but you see it in others, then you could start doing that more, right? And I know I've done that so much in my life. I remember and I still do this, when I see somebody being how I want to be, and at a stage in my life, it's just being, more loving, more open, more kind, all of those fairly simple things that get convoluted with our need to survive, right? But when I see other people doing it, I just mimic them. I just go, oh, just be more like that person. Oh, they got it. They're doing it. Be more like that, Merit. And the more I'm aware of that, and the more I can practice that, and the more I can catch myself not being like that, right? I can start to change and create the person I want to be. Okay. And that's what this document comes out of. Okay. And it's a fairly straightforward document, I hope. And yet it's probably one of the deepest, worksheets you'll ever do, should you choose to. Okay, so it's a basic grid here. And well, let me start with sort of the easy. You can see on the, what is that, the X? Oh, I can't remember. Past me, present me, future me on the left. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward, right? There's who you've been in the past, there's who you are now, and there's who you want to be, future me. Okay, so those are the three rows. There we go. Now in the columns, this is just my take on things. I think there are sort of four basic categories that make us up as human beings. Four kind of quadrants, if you will. That's redundant, Merit. But anyway, four elements, four pillars, be creative, whatever you want, but four aspects maybe of what it means to be human. And they are, we are social beings, we are psychological beings, that includes emotional, which I guess those could be separate, but for this purpose, I put them together. There's our physical experience and our spiritual experience, okay? But I do want to kind of go through each one of those because I think that's really what this worksheet is trying to get to is these four and a half areas of being. And maybe I'll even change that. I don't know. Because you can change, right? You can look at something that I did months ago and go, maybe I can make this better. So let's walk through it, or talk through it, if you will. Okay, so social, right? We are all social beings, whether you want to or not, whether you're introverted or extroverted, you are still social. I consider, well, I know I'm an introvert by definition, I am an introvert because as much as I love to be social and I love to express myself and I love to be around others, I find that drains my battery, right? I love it, but in order to refuel my battery, I need space. I need time alone. I need to just be quiet, build a jigsaw puzzle, play Candy Crush, those are the things that refill my batteries, right? So even if you're introvert, and this is, people get confused by this all the time, doesn't mean you're not social, okay? Now your level of introversion may be really, far to one extreme. You may only need a little bit of other engagement. Or also like me, I prefer to be one-on-one, right? Once I'm in a group, I get a little overwhelmed, right? Because I have a need to try to hone in on everybody, right? Which is a whole other part of my dynamic psychologically, right? And the more you understand yourself, the more you're going to be able to be who you want to be, right? So that I'll just sort of, that quick reference I just made to me needing to hone in on others is actually comes from a dysfunctional place of codependency, right? Because I was raised in an environment where I had to hone in on the adults, or bad things might happen, right? So and that's actually a really good example of something, because while it comes from a dysfunctional place, I'm aware of it, so I can use it in a way that benefits me and others, right? I mean, this is what I do for a living, right? I hone in on others. I help others understand themselves because I can see them pretty clearly, right? I sometimes don't always see myself clearly, but I'm working on that, right? That's probably one of the hardest things to do, right? But I also know that about myself, that I used to run groups. That doesn't really work for me because I get too split up in a group. I lose track in a group. If I'm just one-on-one with someone, I'm far more effective, right? So this thing that comes out of maybe a dysfunctional coping skill, I've learned to be aware of and use it in a way that is beneficial. Okay, so figuring out your social needs, what you like about socialness and what you don't like about socialness. One thing I would just caution you here is, if just watch your own judgment and labeling on any of this. Well, if I'm an introvert, I don't need people, I don't want people. Well, that's just not true. That's what you're telling yourself, okay? No person is an island, and maybe you only need a little bit of people, but you still do, right? This world would be so boring if it was just one of us, right? So, people, we all, and look, the more all of us do this work on ourselves, the easier we're all going to be around. Okay. So there. So how have you been in the past? Maybe you've decided I'm an introvert and I'm going to put myself in that box, or I'm an extrovert and I need to be around people constantly, and being alone is scary, and I avoid it at all costs. Okay. Well, if that's true, then how are you going to be, how is that going to affect your authenticity, right? And if it's working for you, now don't let me judge either. If it's working for you, then great, keep it, okay? But I just want to bring your attention to how quickly we judge ourselves, and part of that's out of just fear of change, right? Because what I'm suggesting you do here is maybe change a few things about yourself, okay? But just do them intelligently and do them for your own benefit, not because I say to do it or because you should. Oh Lord, the should word is a word to be mindful of, actually, because as soon as you hear the word should, you're caging yourself in, okay? That's just a side note, but think about your social needs in the past, your social fears, and really this worksheet is to just get it all out, okay? There's no, this is just a tool for brainstorming, really. Okay, so how have you been in the past from a social perspective that's worked and that hasn't worked? And that's really important, because what we're going to do is we're going to take what works and we're going to do more of it, right? And we're going to look at what isn't working and we're going to start to siphon that off, atrophy, right? We're going to start to do less of that, right? That's how you define and design who you're going to be, okay? So what you'll find also in this worksheet is the past me is going to have most of the information, right? That's going to be pretty full because that's already done, right? You have all the data in the past. You can't go make up more information there. It is what it is, or it was what it was, right? So you really actually in that row, you want to list as much stuff as possible. And even if it doesn't seem significant, if it comes up, just write it down, just have it there, right? Because you never know, the subconscious is always at work, and you never know, you might write something down that seems insignificant and later becomes really key to your future self, okay? So present me. Now, for example, let's say what I said before about my dysfunctional coping skill of tuning into others, that was definitely past me, right? And that would go under social and psychological. So it's okay there to overlap on these as well. Again, this is just a tool. There's no right or wrong. So past me would be, I focused on others too much to my own detriment. Okay. I lost myself, right? Present me, exactly what I described before. I now use that what was a hindrance now as a skill, right? Now I use that ability to hone in on others and into others to help them, and to use it as a skill for me from an authentic place, right? And I'm also learning, this is a work in progress, and I think this will be for the rest of my life, because this is future me, and who I want to be is someone who's better at tuning into my own needs and wants. And I struggle with that. And to some extent, I may always struggle with that, but that's okay. I'm aware of it and I keep working on it, right? So that would be future me. Future me is someone who is more in tune with her own needs and wants. Okay, so that's how you would use this. Okay, so let me just kind of go over the other columns here, because I think I've explained the process of this worksheet fairly well now. So psychological, emotional, It's interesting I put those together, actually. I'm gonna think about that. See, here I am doing the work right here. Um, but they're so related, right? I mean, thoughts inform feelings, and if you're doing it right, feelings then inform thoughts. Okay. And it really is in my opinion, it's a system that really should work. Oh, there's the should word. Okay. Really can work together for your benefit. Okay. So, how have you been from a psychological perspective and from an emotional perspective, right? Where are you now? And how do you want to be? Okay. And the reason that we do this in this order is because if there's things from the past that you want to let go of, now for future me, you don't want those there, right? And vice versa, if there's things from past me or present me that you absolutely want to include in future me, then make sure you put them in there. Our physical bodies. Okay, how have you been in the past? How are you now? And how do you want to be from a physical perspective? Okay. Because that's really important, right? We are contained in this physical body, which with its own benefits and limitations, right? And again, I'll just say for myself, this is one of the things that's hardest for me because I'm like a from here up person, always have been. I've never been in tune with my body. Well, see, I shouldn't say that because I'm becoming more in tune with my body and I'm aware of it. And see how this process works, right? So I can be more, and I might be, should I choose to be, right? And that's a tricky one right there, because for me personally, because it doesn't come naturally to me to be in my body or to take care of my body, really. Um, it's easy for me to say, well, I should do it, right? I should take better care of my body. And while that may be true, I don't need shame on top of all of this, right? I either will or I won't. And it's okay. It's okay if I do, and it's okay if I don't. But I'm aware now that my physical body is something that doesn't come naturally to me to take care of or to be in tune with, right? I have to work a little harder at that, right? You may have to work a little harder at the emotional part, right? This is why this is so important, is to understand you, right? Your nuances, your strengths, your limitations, right? Okay. Final column, spiritual, right? This kind of gets into the realm of what does it all mean, right? When you're, well, it's also a very individual experience, right? Because there can be, and in spiritual, you would put religion, right? And maybe in the past, you could have been brought up in a really religious home, really religious experience, and it was harmful in some way, right? And you'll want to understand that about you and your experience. Or vice versa, maybe it was a really positive experience, and maybe that really informs you, informs who you are and what's important to you, and you really want to hold on to that, maybe even develop it further. Great, great, right? Okay, so there is the me.doc. And again, I'm just going to say one more time, why would you not take the time to do this? Develop your authentic self. Know that you are a work in progress. And the more that you are intentional about who you want to become, the more likely you're going to become that person. Okay. And in terms of looking past, because this comes up a lot too in therapy and coaching, is that some people, they kind of want to go over everything that happened in the past, and that's okay. Some people never want to go over what happened in the past. If they can move forward, that's fine too. I personally take the take that if something from the past is impeding you moving forward, then we need to take a look at that. Okay. And that's the spirit in which this is here too. So take what works, leave the rest. Okay. Well, there you have that. A little more on authenticity and developing your own authentic self. You can find me at shareitwithmerit.com for more information. There is a free download for a happiness recipe And I look forward to seeing you next time.